Happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. Today we are doing a Makeup Your Mind. I just broke the news to you guys about Natasha Denona's Midi Zendo palette that potentially was coming out, and then we found out from Natasha it is a thing. It is coming out. Apparently it's being released on May 10th on Natasha Denona's website and also at Sephora. So I decided, hello, let's do a Makeup Your Mind. But like I always tell you guys, this is a spoiler one because at the end of these videos, I usually tell you guys whether I'm going to pick up the palette or not. And if you guys don't know about my 1 year, 1 brand challenge, Natasha Denona, I'm picking up every single new release from. So yeah, spoiler, I'm picking up this palette. But you guys love it when I look through my collection and try to mimic a palette and kind of go over with you guys what I think of the color story, or I love the colors inside of it, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and put together the Midi Zendo palette from Natasha. I'm gonna try to find it in my collection, and guys, this one was not easy to do. I feel like Midi Zendo really has a lot of different colors in it. I felt like I had to go into so many different palettes just to see a color story. But as I started swatching different colors together, I just started getting so excited for this palette because am I giving everything away? Maybe I should just get into the video. So if you guys haven't done so already, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe, and let's go in my collection and let's start trying to find the colors that could potentially be inside of Midi Zendo. Okay, so as I was saying before, I had to go through a lot of palettes. So I just stabbed a palette. I have a holiday palette right here in front of me that just got stabbed, but holiday, I had to use the holiday palette. I jumped into Trio Chrome. I jumped into Mini Glam. I jumped into both of the Huda Beauty's new Obsession palette, the brown and the caramel. I also jumped into Celestial Divinity from Pat McGrath. We're gonna just keep on going here. This is, I'm telling you guys, this is an interesting color story. Natasha Denona's Safari palette, Metropolis, and finally, like if I haven't said enough palettes, Circo Loco. Now, in each one of these palettes, I did grab like one color, sometimes two colors, but remember the primary reason that I do these videos is to try to find a color story. There's every once in a blue moon that a palette is just so similar to another palette that I'm like, whoa, hold on, I own you. But for the most part, this is just to see what the colors are gonna look like and to see if I like them, if there's something that I feel like I'm going to use a lot. Sometimes I find out palettes are exactly the same and I say, well, why am I gonna buy this? I already own it. At the time of filming this video, Natasha has not released her finger swatches. She always does these amazing Instagram videos that they show so many colors that I feel like it just tells you exactly the colors in the palette. But at the time I'm filming this video, she hasn't done that swatch video yet. So I am going by her swatches that she released on her website, and let me show you guys my results. This is what I came up with. I do not think that every single one of these is spot on, but I do feel like I'm able to see the Midi Zendo. It's so hard for me to say Midi and not Mini. Let's go ahead and start with the first color and where I found it. So for the very first color, what I did was I jumped into Trio Chrome, okay? So there was also a color in Safari that kind of looked like it could be. And the color that I picked was this color called Scarab. It's kind of like a brownish green. Now, I think that the new palette might actually be a little less green than this color. But as I was looking through my collection, this is the only brownish green that I own that kind of reminded me a lot of the color, at least from her swatches. I do think it's going to be deeper. So I don't think this one is going to be perfect. So I think it's going to be deeper than this. It's actually going to look a little bit more rich in tone. At least that's what it looks like in her swatches. But it's going to have a similarity to this. I'm really hoping it goes more green and not as much brown, but it might be like in between. It might be like one of those in between shades. So I went with this color. It is the closest that I could find in my collection to something that's browny green, and I like this color. I hope it's similar to this. I do hope it's deeper than this though, because then I really would not have it in my collection because I don't have anything deeper than this. The second one was so hard to find, guys. I had such a hard time finding this. Oh my goodness. In her swatch, it almost looks like it has a little bit of a green effect to it. I feel like, I don't know, maybe this one's a dual chrome, because in some pictures it looks a little bit more like it's a brownish like taupe color, and then some others it looks like it has a little green in it. So what I ended up doing was just grabbing from the Mini Glam this color and this color, because I couldn't find anything exact to this, and the colors that I had, they literally went to green, and I was looking at a bunch of different colors and it didn't look to me like it was going to be as green as it looks in the swatch. So I think it's like one of those that reflects, but at least I can kind of get an idea of the first two colors of what they look like, and to be honest, I'm loving these. Even if they go more green, actually if they go more green, I'll love it even more. The next one actually shocked me, because I feel like the next few I actually found inside of the brown Obsessions from Huda Beauty. And what I did was I grabbed this color right here on the bottom and just dabbed into this top one just to deepen it out just a tad. But this to me is like one of the most beautiful colors in the universe, and I do feel like hers might even be a little bit more orange, maybe even closer to the color Morgan inside of the Sunrise palette, but I think it's going to be similar. So I ended up with this color. I really like this color, reminiscent of Midi Zendo. It kind of reminds me of that color. Now, if these have a little bit more shift to green, with this, it is going to be like insane. So I'm really hoping, like almost like kind of like what I was hoping for retro, like it's kind of like in this direction. So, okay, so then the next color, we went pink, and it looks like it's pretty pink, at least from her swatch. And I was looking at references to her swatch, I was looking at references to the actual palette. What I ended up doing, just going into Celestial Divinity, because like this palette has like almost every color you can dream of. And I saw this really pinky looking color. I think it's gonna look similar to this one. I don't know, could it be this pink? It might be this pink. I think it's gonna have a pink to maybe a little bit of like a deeper like burgundy shift to it. I don't know, that's where I'm going with it. I think it's gonna look similar to this, but I would say the beginning of this palette is so stunning. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just like, it's like my colors, but oh. So for the next one, I went into the brown Obsessions. I got this color. I think this might be like almost identical. It's the color I used all over my lids, and today's look, it will be up on Instagram, and it's gonna be something similar that you could probably create if you buy this new Zendo palette. So this is the color. I think this is gonna be almost identical. I'm kind of loving it. This portion right here now is where it's kind of reminding me of the Mini Zendo, this area right here. And I really like this color. I smoked it all over my lids today, and if it's anything like this in a Natasha formula. So for the next color, it almost feels like, okay, now we went for a loop here. What happened? I do love it, because I do feel like this could be an interesting complementary shade to some of the peachy tones. So what I ended up doing, because I'm telling you, this was kind of like out of the left field for me. I don't typically have like this type of like, it's almost like a minty color. Now inside of Trio Chrome, she did release a color that looks kind of similar. So this one right here reminds me a lot of the swatch. Natasha doesn't usually repeat her shades like 100%, so it's probably not going to be identical. The new one actually might have a little bit more of like a mint hue to it, whereas this one might be a little bit more yellow. But for sakes of the video and just kind of getting an idea, it's going to be something similar to that. And I like it. I think it could be interesting if you're working with like the pink. You can mix this kind of like mint together and do a little bit more of like those real soft pastel kind of eyes that are very, very in. So now for the next one, what I did was I went into Holiday. Do you guys remember the Aries palette? Well, there was this color right here. Actually looks lighter in the pan, but when you swatch it, it actually comes off darker. So it kind of reminds me of blue inside Aries. I don't know, what's the color of this one? Ice blue, reminds me of ice blue. What do you guys think? I think it looks kind of similar to ice blue. I do think though that the new palette's gonna be like a tad deeper, but I got an idea. And you know, honestly, like just looking at this, I'm like, wow, I would have never thought of putting blue in here, but I'm kind of feeling it. Like, I'm kind of feeling it. So then we went back into Trio Chrome. And for this color, what I did was I grabbed this color here called Diatonic, I think it's called. And it's like a it's like a strong peachy, pinky color. I think it's gonna actually look pretty damn similar to this. Like when I swatched this, I went, well, you look kind of similar. Now maybe there's a chance that the new palette actually might be more pink. And I don't know if I would like that. if it was more pink. Maybe it would go a little bit more with the color story. So it would make sense if the new color was a little bit more pink than this one. Also, she's not going to ever repeat the shade 100%. So maybe even if we grabbed a little bit of the color on top of it and just kind of mix them together. So kind of making maybe a little bit more pink. Maybe that would look a little bit more similar. So yeah, that looks a little closer, a little bit closer. So what I did was I just grabbed into tungsten, which is right on top, and mixed them together and made a little bit more pink. That might be a little bit more accurate, just a tad. Next color gave me a really hard time. So based off of her swatch, it almost looks like it goes a little bit more burnt red. I guess I don't really have like a real burnt red, but I went into the holiday, and in this Aries palette, there's this one that kind of reminds me of it. The new palette actually might be a little bit richer in tone, so it might be a little deeper than this color, but really looking through my collection, this is probably the closest that I can get in a matte, and I think it's kind of close. I actually think that it might actually look more like this metallic than this one, but it's the only one that I had in a matte. So I can even kind of just maybe jump into the metallic just a little bit and maybe try to deepen this out just a little bit, like adding a little, like something like that. It's kind of interesting, let me tell you. It's an interesting palette. Okay, so now we jump into the caramel palette from Huda Beauty. I never thought that the caramel palette would be useful in a Zendo release, but I jumped into this color right here on the top, and it's kind of orange, and it reminds me a lot. This color actually almost spot on. It might actually have just a little bit less, like almost like I want to put a little bit of the color in Celestial Divinity, which is this one right here on top, and just like mix it in just to see better. I think that might go a little bit closer to what I'm seeing. Doesn't it kind of look like it? Like this portion right here kind of reminds me of the Aries. But then if we keep going, so now we have a blue. I have a feeling that this one here is her creamy matte, which not everybody loves. And usually she does her deep blues and creamy matte. So then for the next one, what I did was jump into Safari. And Safari has this color called Fata Morgana, and it looks like this. Now the color, it looks similar, the squeakiest palette I own, but I don't think it's going to be this formula, because I do think that this is a creamy matte, but this color kind of reminds me of a similar color, not exact, but similar. So something similar to that. Interesting, right? It's interesting. So then for the next one, we went back into Circo Loco. Did we use Circo Loco yet? I don't know. I feel like I've used all these palettes like 500 times. But I jumped into Snow Cone here on the top, and Snow Cone reminds me of this shade pretty good. Like it's kind of going to be something very similar to this. It's going to be like a light blue that has a little punch to it. Kind of interesting, right? I think it's going to be pretty different from this one. This one I think is going to be a little deeper, and this is going to be a little lighter. So I do think that they're going to be different. Will they be different on the lids? They might be. They might be different on the lid. It just depends on how deep this one goes, but I have a feeling she's going to make it pretty deep. It's going to be deeper than this color. The next one I had the hardest time finding, and I don't even think I found it, to be honest. So what I ended up doing was going into my Squeaky Palette Safari. Oh, that wasn't that bad. And I jumped into the color Tamarind right here, and I mixed it with Thorn. Okay, so that's the only way that I can come up with this color, because it looks to me like a grungy taupe brown that almost kind of gives you like a greenish vibe. I saw a color inside of Metropolis that I was thinking of using, but when I swatched it, it looked too green. I don't think it's gonna be that green. So I ended up going with this color just to make it like a real grungy looking taupe. And I think that's where we're going. Then the next color is probably my least favorite color in this entire palette, because it looks to me like a true metallic yellowy, like that my favorite color in palettes, which is metallic gold. I think it's gonna be this one, like similar to Celestial Divinity, like the true gold that Pat McGrath loves to put in all her palettes that I always say, why? I think it's gonna be similar to that. Like I was looking at the color and I was hoping it would go a little bit more orange, but just off of her swatch, I think it's gonna be more like that, like a true, real, yellowy gold. At the end, there looks like there's like a deep brown, like a nice deepening shade. And what I did, I have so many palettes on my table. I jumped into Mini Glam and I grabbed the brown in here because it's like a real nice deep brown that has a little bit of coolness to it. And since this palette has so much coolness to it, I really think that this brown is gonna be cool like that. It's gonna be cool like that. So I think it's gonna look like that. So this is what I think that this palette's going to look like all swatched on my arm. And let me tell you guys, it's kind of interesting. I will say that there's parts of it from these swatches that like obviously are not 100% accurate, but you know, at least I could see a color story. There's parts of it that I don't love as much as other parts, but there's parts of it that are kind of like super intriguing. I almost feel like rearranging this palette as well. I love the way it looks inside the pictures. Like I just think like photogenic wise, beautiful layout, but like looking at it swatched on my arm, I'm wondering how it's gonna look in person and if it's gonna make a lot of sense. There are some color families here that I love. Like I love these color families right here. I really like the fact that you can go a little bit more warm with the look. I'm obsessed with this color. Blue is not my favorite color on the lid. So blues in here, it wasn't like it got me super excited. I know some people really love blue. The only thing that I'm happy with is that they're kind of metallic-y blues and I could probably use them as accents more than just like really smoking out. And then this really deep one, I think it's gonna be so deep that you might not be able to tell it's like super blue, you know? That's what I'm thinking. I know some of the images looked a little greenish, but I think our green palette will be retro. I really think our green palette is going to be retro. I think that this is like maybe a little introduction, but this is a little bit more blue in my opinion. It looks a little bit more blue. I think we had something going here and then it went a little bit more blue. So I think it's actually going to be really pretty. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like in person. And I am hoping though that it's a little duller than the colors that I found here. It's a little bit more toned down. I think that would match Zendo just a tad bit more than what I found. But overall, from her swatches that I saw, I really like it. So I can see now a little bit where Zendo came from. Maybe up here it was like they were going on a Zendo ride, and then down here they decided let's go Aries, you know? Like that's kind of like what I see here. It's like a mixture. It's like a mixture of mini Zendo with the holiday glam of Aries. That's what I see. But anyways, obviously guys, if I have to make up my mind, I am going to be picking up this palette, and either way, I think that even if I didn't have this challenge, I would have picked this up anyways, because I think it's quite interesting and there's parts of it that I think could be very beautiful. I'm not gonna lie and say that every single part I love. I'm not gonna say the color story is perfect for me because there is some blues in there, but it's very intriguing. So anyways, I want to know from you guys. Sound off down below what you guys think of the color story. Are you guys excited for it? Of course, I am ordering it the day that it releases, so I am sure that I will have it up on the channel. Get ready for the review, get ready for the first impression, get ready for all the swatches. Of course, if you are an internet detective out there and you have any cheeseman Natasha Denona, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Christina Brooke Beauty so we can share our gossip with each other. And yeah, let me know, what do you guys think? How did I do? Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. I'll talk with you guys later. Bye.